Hello Dragonfly Swarm. Xiao is getting yet another rerun banner just 3 patches after his last rerun, which is kind of favoritism, but whatever. In the short time since his last rerun, lots of new enemies, mechanics, and even a new best in slot artifact set has been added to the game, all of which things have in some way affected Xiao's relevance to the game, for better or for worse. So today, I wanted to go over my thoughts on Xiao's quick return to the game in 2.7 just to help anyone who might still be on the fence about pulling for him. Disclaimer, this video is intended only to take an unbiased look at Xiao and where he stands currently. It's not to say Xiao is broken or useless or that you have to or cannot pull for him, so if you take this video that way, that's on you, baby! Okay, so most of us know that Xiao is a long-time popular character in Genshin, not only for his extremely swag character design, I cannot lie, but also for his status as a top-tier hypercarry DPS, who, with proper investment, can output some of the highest consistent damage per second of any character in the game. With that said, it's also true that the addition of many new enemies and mechanics to the game has rendered his kit a little bit aged in some areas of the game. For example, with the infamous corrosion mechanic, Xiao, as a character who sacrifices his HP during his burst, is now way more susceptible to the unalivement. Which means the days where he could get away with running multiple damage buffing supports and neglect shielders and healers are effectively over. Not that it's a huge problem though, because there are plenty of healers and shielders that still double as damage buffers or hypercarry supports, it just slightly restricts Xiao's team building. Another issue I personally have with Xiao is that I'm a fan of playing him with crowd control supports so that I won't have to waste time chasing enemies during my burst and I can hit multiple at once, especially in places like Spiral Abyss where timing is everything. The problem with that is though, many enemies and horde floors nowadays are much more resistant to crowd control, so it makes it a little more difficult to play Xiao, especially if you prefer playing him with characters like Venti or Kazuha. Once again, not to say that it's a huge problem, it just makes him a little less fun and satisfying to play than he used to be when going up against hordes. Those minor drawbacks are rather subjective though, and are far outweighed by Xiao's value as a main DPS. It stands true even in 2.7 that as an anemo hypercarry, Xiao can take on almost any content in the game completely unchecked, which is something that really can't be said about many other DPS characters in the game. As an anemo character, the only things that are stopping Xiao in theory are anemo immune enemies, and as of current there really aren't that many of them in Genshin. And that's all to say that spending extra time and resources on your Xiao would objectively bring a lot of value to your roster, because he fills such a niche DPS role. Similar to how Yola feels like she'll never not be a top tier DPS because of her meta-defying kit, Xiao has the benefit of wielding a universally neutral element as his source of damage, which sounds quite poetic, I'm not gonna lie. And so, although he does have more minor inconveniences working against him than he used to, those inconveniences are rather easy to work around because of his niche kit and versatile playstyle. So what the f is going on with the new 4-piece set that everyone was so hyped about? Xiao has a new best in slot artifact set, and it's actually his very first viable 4-piece, the Vermillion Hereafter set. And when this set was revealed to us, the Xiao community was screaming, because it's pretty rare that a character already released in Genshin gets a buff, whether directly to their kit or their build options, and Xiao received just that. Vermillion Hereafter is a set that grants 18% attack from the 2-piece bonus and a crazy cool passive on the 4-piece. When Xiao uses his burst, the set passive will grant him 8% increased attack for 16 seconds, and from then on, every time his HP decreases, he will gain an additional 10% attack. This bonus can stack up to 4 times and can trigger once every 0.8 seconds for a total of 40% extra attack on top of the already 8%. It's relatively important to note that these stacks will disappear when Xiao leaves the field, and they will also disappear if he uses his burst again during the duration of the original passive effect. Now, in general, it's not always a good option to stack such a high amount of attack bonuses on your DPS characters because of diminishing returns and whatnot, but the cool thing about Xiao is that he actually has the highest base attack in the game currently, and with such a high base attack, he can make far better use of attack bonuses like these than other characters can. Not to mention, he's one of only 2 characters in the game that can even proc this set's passive on his own, and the other character can't even do it reliably. So all that to say, basically this set was 100% designed for Xiao, and pretty much only Xiao. The problem is, as true as it is that this is his new best in slot set, it's not his best in slot by very much. So I did some damage testing on Masanori, may he rest in peace, cause this Xiao folded his ass over and over. Besides the point. I damage tested Xiao plunges with 2 sets, the first being 2-piece Gladiators and 2-piece Viridescent Venerer, the second set being 4-piece Vermillion Hereafter. It's worth noting that I kept the crit ratios as similar as possible, but there will be slight inconsistencies because they aren't exactly the same. Essentially, without any damage buffs, just raw Xiao damage, Xiao's high plunges hit for roughly 39,000 on crit hits with the 2-piece combo. Now with his best in slot, 4-piece Vermillion, Xiao Xiao's raw damage on high plunges hit a little over 43,000 on crit hits. This is only a 4,000 damage increase, and that's taking into account that this 4-piece set has really good substats that were able to match the 2-piece combo stats. With full Bennett buff and Zhongli resistance shred, Xiao's 2-piece combo was able to hit a 65k high plunge when it crit, but that's only, once again, 4,000 less than the high plunge crit from the 4-piece Vermillion set, which was 69k. And while theoretically this 4,000 damage gap does add up, if you were to deal, for example, 10 consistent hits of high plunge damage and compare between these two sets, all in all, Xiao was only dealing 40,000 more damage total with the 4-piece Vermillion set. That's like one extra plunge. My problem with this comparison is that 4-piece sets are much harder to farm for and maximize than 2-piece sets are, so the added effort required to maximize your Xiao with this new set feels a little unsatisfying, and in the end you can get away with very similar damage just by using the sets he's always used. At the end of the day though, 4-piece Vermillion does outdamage all of Xiao's other sets when properly maximized, so if you do want to pull for him and maximize him, he did receive a buff to his artifact options, regardless of how small that buff was. My overall thoughts on Xiao's rerun and the state that he's in as of 2.7 remains scarily similar to what those thoughts were back in 2.4 during his first rerun, which isn't really a bad thing. I mean, he's still one of those handful of top tier DPS units, and he has the added benefit of being pretty timeless and consistently strong in almost every single piece of the game's content. So if you do like Xiao and were just concerned about his power in the current state of the game, fear not, for he is very much capable of becoming your favorite character. And if you're on the other side of the spectrum, hoping that Xiao had some big changes and buffs because of the new artifact set and whatnot, I do hate to disappoint, but this set isn't that big of a change in Xiao's world, not to mention it's really annoying to farm for. Anyways, that about sums up what I wanted to talk about regarding the state of Xiao in 2.7 for the purposes of his rerun. So if this video helped you in any way, don't forget to like and subscribe, and also I compel you to join my Discord server because I would love to see you around. Alright, I'm gonna go prepare my mentals so I don't get tempted to pull for him because I need to get better at saving my primos. I have got to